These mountains cause best friends to turn on each other. They're called the Superstition Mountains. They're a little bit west of Phoenix, Arizona. So in the middle of 2020, during the quarantine, I was totally cooped up in my house and I needed some type of activity or adventure. So I called my friend Abdullah and I'm like, dude, are you trying to take a road trip? He's like, I'm not doing anything. Nobody is. Why not? So we hop in his car, we start driving west, we're looking up mountain ranges and hikes, see which one is the best one. And we come across a fairly interesting one, the Superstition Mountains, where it has a nice 13-mile loop trail, and it has a bunch of rich history that we found very interesting. Whenever we visit places, we like to lean into some of the history and we do little funny bits based on stuff that has happened there. And the first thing that you find when you look up the Superstition Mountains is the gold mine that's supposedly hidden there. So we think it would be absolutely hilarious to pretend like we're actually looking for the treasure when we're absolutely not. So let me tell you the main clues about the Dutchman's Mine. That's what they call it. The first clue is head north into the mountain range. Easy enough. The second clue is that you'll pass a stone cabin. The third clue is that at some point the trail will split and you should take the road less traveled. The fourth is that you will be able to see two large stone columns from the mine. So that's literally all we had to go on when we arrived there. And I don't know why we expected more people to be there, but we were surprised when we came across the parking lot that only had one car in it. And once we parked and got out and got our hiking gear out of the trunk, there was this little guide station, and the one and only worker that was working at this guide station came over to our car to introduce himself. Clearly, he was surprised to see other people here, and he was excited to potentially be able to do his job. Mind you, it is the middle of the quarantine. We've had no social interaction for months. We invite him to come on our little camping trip with us. It doesn't take much convincing, and he agrees to come for the first day because we were planning on staying overnight. And things were actually going really well until we slipped up. One of us made a joke about some clue that we were looking for, and he looked at us and he said, "Please don't tell me you're one of these treasure hunters." We immediately defend ourselves and we're like, bro, we are absolutely joking. We're not actually looking for it. But even though he seemed to lighten up a bit, I still felt weird about his reaction to it. And right after that small conversation, we entered a part of the trail that was actually closed in by two 25-foot stone walls on either side of us. And we're about halfway through this narrow section of the trail when we see something off to the right of the trail that's kind of pressed up against one of these walls. And I tap Abdullah's shoulder and I'm like, dude, look at that. And his eyes light up and he's like, dude, that's the stone cabin. And we're looking at what looks like the remnants of what could be the stone cabin from the first clue. And the guide is kind of rolling his eyes and honestly looking a little bit more concerned than I would like him to. And as we're around this thing, we start to hear an odd sound, that crackling or like rocks breaking, and it's coming from above us. So I start to look up and all I see is the glaring sun that's directly above us. But within a split second, it's like the sun is completely blocked out. And I didn't register it initially, but thank God I did with a second to spare because something was falling from above us and we all had to get out of the area. We didn't have to run miles, just a couple steps to get out of the way of this falling boulder. And as this thing is falling onto these stone remains, it clips the edge of a protrusion that's kind of jutting out of the stone wall, and all of it shatters. A part of the wall falls down. There's dust everywhere, stones falling, rolling and hitting us in the shins, and I'm trying to look up at where it came from, but from the corner of my eye, I see that the guide has his gun drawn and he's pointing directly up at the sky as if there was somebody up there. He tells us to get behind him. So we listen immediately, and I'm trying to see what he's looking at, but I don't see anything on top of the ledge. The only thing I see is what's behind the protrusion that broke off the wall. And inside of this wall, it was laced with sprinkles of gold sparkles, as if there was remnants of gold throughout this entire wall. And at that point, I couldn't believe it because we were at the stone cabin and now we have proof of gold. But we have to follow the guide, who's now jogging out of this narrow area because he assumes that it's totally dangerous and there's somebody above us. And when we finally get out of it and we get to look around and there's nobody and we're completely safe, Abdullah and I are looking at each other and he finally says, dude, should we go back? Did you see that? And I'm like, you saw the gold too, right? But at this point, the guide had fully flipped the switch and he snapped on us and he's like, you guys are not going back in there. And he starts saying things like, seeing fool's gold is not a good thing in these mountains. That boulder falling wasn't a coincidence. They wanted you to see what was in there. And my BS alarms are going off. I'm like, this dude saw what was in that wall and he's trying to bring us further away from it because he knows we're gonna leave. He works here. He could come back and claim it whenever he wants. But he has a weapon. We don't really know him. So we have to play it safe and play it cool and pretend like we're buying into the lies that he's peddling. We completely de-escalate the situation. We start start joking like, we totally believe you, you work here, but can we still like jokingly look for the other clues? And he begrudgingly agrees. He's like, yeah, if you see one, I'll take you over to it. And we continue our hike up a particularly steep part of the trail. We're on an incline, so I'm not able to talk nearly as much because I'm pretty out of breath, but he's conditioned for these trails, so he's talking the entire time. And clearly he didn't think that we fully believed him, because he continues to tell us a lot of people go missing out here, and they always say it's because of dehydration. But it's kind of hard to say that when the skeletons of the people that went missing are found with no skulls, and their skull is found miles away as if somebody put it there. And he goes on a monologue about how these mountains are harmless to the people that are just trying to enjoy them, but they're ruthless to the people that are searching for something that isn't theirs. And we have to hike alongside to him, too exhausted to even reply to it, letting him fearmonger us, even though we just saw proof of the gold. So we start slowing down. We're getting ready to rest, not at a designated rest stop, but at a random point in the trail that has a little stream off to the side. The guide takes our water bottles, heads to the stream for a refill, and I notice something from the corner of my eye to the left, and it's two very large protruding stone columns, and I'm looking directly at them, and when my eyes scan down, I notice that there's a small, discreet trail, and I look towards Abdullah, and he's looking at me with a little mischievous look on his face, pointing at the little trail, mouthing something to me. It's the trick in the trail, and he's pointing towards the columns going, that's the third clue. So at this point, we are fully convinced that we are going to find this mine. It went from a complete joke to this is about to happen, but we have to convince this guide to take us over to this second clue, so we have to pretend to be excited about it in a fake way. So he comes back, Abdullah immediately lies to his face. He's like, I want to take an Instagram photo near that stone column. Can you take us over there? It's just a little bit off trail. We didn't mention, look at this little trail, because it's the trick in the trail. We said off trail, and he obliged. He's like, we could go over there for like 15 minutes, but then we got to get to where we're going to camp tonight. We head that way. We climb the little hill where these big stone columns are, and we're trying to look around the area for the next clue. But once we climb up near them, we're at a higher elevation, and we're able to look all the way around 360 degrees at the entire area. And even though I'm looking for clues, I also look back to where we came from, and I see that narrow pathway with the really tall walls on either side. And I take out my binoculars and I start looking towards it, because this is the first time that I'm able to see on top of the ledge where the boulder came from. And I'm not expecting to see anything, but as I'm scanning the mountainside, I come across a man standing right where it happened. And I don't immediately tell everybody. I want to watch this guy for a second. He's just standing at the edge of this cliff, staring directly at me. And mind you, I have long distance binoculars on, but it looks like he's staring directly in my eyes. And he's not wearing hiking gear. He's wearing slacks. He's wearing normal people clothes. He does not look equipped for a hike, and he's staring blankly at me. So I take the binoculars away from my face for a second to see if he would be able to see that I'm looking at him. But he is so far away from us at this point, he looks like a little mini Tic Tac in the distance. And I figure that it is a complete coincidence that he's looking in my direction. But the second I'm able to see him through the binoculars again, he tilts his head, raises his eyebrow, and smirks at me as if he's trying to let me know that he sees me. And to add insult to injury, he raises his hand and starts waving at me. Not a regular wave, but like a Miss Universe cupped hand wave. I'm staring at him in absolute shock, trying to justify what I'm watching. But then I watch this man shoot his chin to the sky and raise his palms behind him as if he's starting to do a back bend. But as he continues to contort his spine backwards, he doesn't reach towards the floor to finish the back bend. It's as if the top of his body just snaps off and crumbles to the ground behind his standing legs. And now his torso, his head, and his arms are in a slumped pile behind his completely erect legs. I watched a man break into two pieces, and then I watched his legs sprint off to the left down the mountainside. And I try my best to follow them with my binoculars because they are so far in the distance. But because they're sprinting so fast, I eventually lose them, and I try to go back to the torso that's laying there to check to see if he's okay. And I'm searching for his body, and when I finally find it, his torso has the back of his head and his back facing me, and it's standing on its hands as if it's in a handstand, but it has no legs. They ran off. Then this man's upper body takes a couple steps and hops off the ledge, plummeting down the mountainside. And I rip my binoculars away from my face before I see the impact.